Thanks so much. My name is Tyler Hersey. I'm from NZMS, New Zealand Micrographics. We make a product called Recollect, which is used by a number of libraries, universities, government organizations throughout Australia and New Zealand to really engage communities around digital collections. I'm a digital archivist by trade, so I spent about a decade working as digital archivist for the filmmakers Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, making museum exhibits like the Over the Front exhibit at the Australian War Memorial or the Scale of Our War exhibit at Te Papa, a number of those. So I'm here for the day. I'm thrilled to hear about all of the local studies and history initiatives that are happening around Queensland. And I want to show you a little bit about what we do as a platform and how we are promoting engagement online for organizations in New Zealand and Australia. And then the second part of this is going to be strategies and practices that you can take away with you no matter what platform that you use for promoting yourselves online, going in and analyzing who's visiting you, and then using that to form both internal and external processes to really get that engagement with groups who might want to visit and be interested in your items online. So I'm super happy to answer any questions. I kind of have maybe 20 minutes of presentation, 25 minutes, and then super happy to answer any questions after that, or just general comments about how people are using online systems to engage their local, regional, national, and international communities. So stop me if you want to make a comment or ask a question at any point. You can see, feel free to tweet at me on Twitter. I am Tyinz, Tyinz. Recollect is at Recollect NZ. And really what we're talking about is collections management and community engagement. So they're both parts, two sides of the same coin. One side is managing the collection items, and the other side is then using those collections to engage community and increase your organizational knowledge. So we'll pop through. So I'll tell you a little bit about some of the people who are using Recollect. Number one is libraries. It's probably the most apropos for today. Hornsby Shire Council, Upper Hutt City Libraries, Dunedin Public Libraries, the State Library of South Australia has a fantastic Recollect site, and they are kind of leading the way for Australian organizations using Recollect. They've had a live site for about a year now. The platform has been around since 2012, 2013. But we just launched in Australia 2 years ago, and we've had live sites here for a little over a year. A few more libraries: Auckland City Council Libraries, Wellington City Libraries, and Lianza, the Library Associations of New Zealand. A number of universities are using Recollect both internally to manage their collections, be they archival material or art gallery and special collections material, and also to engage with their communities on campus, off campus, regionally, and nationally. So the University of Newcastle, Massey, University of Otago, and Lincoln University, as well as the University of Sydney Library is coming on board now to put all of their rare books and special collections into Recollect, and then use the interactive tools to get people to come in and add to that knowledge. And even internally, they're going to be using Recollect as a collaboration tool to pull out the knowledge that's contained in all of their special collections and rare books. University of Wollongong Archives have an awesome collection of special material that's going into their site, and the University of Canterbury are using it as a research, collaboration, and management tool as well. We have a number of government groups that are using Recollect. So the National Army Museum has a wonderful Recollect site, which we'll encourage everyone to visit. It's mostly based around their World War I collection. Antarctica, New Zealand has one of the largest Recollect sites that has tens and tens of thousands of documents, photographs, pieces of research that they've gathered over 50 or 60 years down on the ice. And those are all tightly integrated with the geolocation, so every piece of content or knowledge is geolocated, so you can really go and explore all of the knowledge and information that they have gathered in the past 50 years in Antarctica. The New Zealand Defence Force is using it as an external engagement tool, Ag Research is using it both internally and externally to manage their research outputs and research material. And the New Zealand Transport Agency is working on a kind of multi-agency government approach to standardizing metadata, how they manage and agree upon what metadata standards are between different government groups. So it's really flexible in what people want to use it for. And then we have some special interest groups as well. Local history, the Australian Railway Heritage Society of Historical Society of New South Wales is coming on board. Even the Bondi Icebergs Club have about 90 years worth of club history related to winter swimming. So that's really fantastic for them. And NZEI are the New Zealand Teachers Union, who have 90 years of newsletters that they have been putting out since the early 1900s. So it's just a brief overview. That's only a few of the organizations who are using it, but I wanted to illustrate how diverse the groups are, from local history groups, special interest groups, up to universities, state libraries. So we're built on a number of archival standards and principles. New Zealand Micrographics started as a digitization and microfilming company. So those standards that got put into microfilming have really informed digitization standards and the way digitization standards have been developed. And now that flows into how we are going to display and preserve digital assets and metadata. So we start with that standards compliance, move into preservation readiness, and then on top of that are our three main tenets, and those are assets and collections, discoverability, and community engagement, and then accessibility layer right over the top. So it's built from standards all the way through to accessibility, but those standards compliance initiatives are always there, kind of at the base and core of everything. One thing that's really important to us is being able to deliver for any audience, and I think this is something important to take away no matter what platform that you're using. I'll talk a little bit about this in the next segment of the presentation, is making sure that you can deliver and connect with people on all of these different levels, from organizational, that's internal, people in your library, people in your group, people in your institution, if you're working at an institution, local and regional, people nationally, and then globally, because everything is online and on the net, and you might have folks who are really interested in what you're talking about who are physically located in a completely different area. I popped over here from Wellington for the meeting, but we are extremely interested in what you all are doing, and we get inquiries and people working on these initiatives all over the world in places that you wouldn't even imagine. So always keep that kind of global delivery and global engagement in mind. We make sure that people can access it on any device, desktop, mobile, tablets, anything like that. Make sure it's all touch-friendly. When running all of the sites through the analytics, Google Analytics and the analytics engines, it's over half of people are accessing on a mobile device. So you have to make sure that you tailor your content for mobile devices. You tailor how long your passages of text that you're putting up are, how people are going to consume it. They might be sitting at a bus stop for 5 minutes and want to dive into your site. So you need to make sure that the content looks great on mobile, is tailored to mobile, both in how the digital assets are represented and in the actual knowledge, contextual information. And then really importantly, especially since we're all here in person today, is making sure that we drive people to come in and actually participate, to come to a location. So engage with you online, and then come to your location, come to your library, come to your university. That's really important, and it's something that we want to make sure that it's like a big cycle of people engaging online and then working all the way through to come in and experience in person, especially at a place like this here in the heritage level. So one of the most important things to do, and I think these apply to any platform that you might be working on, but this is our most important tenets of Recollect, is customizing it for discovery. So you want to create really easily browsable collections, add metadata and keywords with the audience in mind. Then you can include those deep links so that if people want to go in and explore more in depth, they can easily click through to different topics, different themes, and then encourage people to snack in content. So like I was saying with the mobile, you really want to let people dive in for a few minutes at a time. We see that our average user session is about 2.5 minutes long or 3 minutes long. We'll take a look at some of those statistics a little bit later. So how much can people consume in 2 minutes and 30 seconds? You really want to tailor that content to them. Absolutely have your in-depth content, blog posts, stories, but you want to let people dive in and be able to see, take away something of meaning in 2.5 minutes. So here's a little look at the extensive metadata and context linking in our interface. This is an oral history. Upper Hutt City Library has a fantastic oral history online exhibition. They interviewed a number of community members about what living in Upper Hutt was like in the 1960s. So here you can see we have a multimedia player right in the interface. No need to go in and download the audio files to listen to them. And then there's all of the contextual linking, so official metadata on the right-hand side, and then audience added, so user-generated metadata on the left-hand side. You can see there's a right statement down there in the bottom left, so every piece of content can be applied a custom right statement. And then next to the audio player, you can see it's broken up into chapters, so you can go in and add links directly to different topics of people, places, ideas, things that are coming up, because discovery within multimedia is very difficult. This is something even YouTube doesn't do at this point. You want to let people go into directly to the pieces of content and the ideas that matter to them. So that's a bit of a look at the kind of the viewport of the interface. So we're really focused on easy storage and retrieval of digital assets. So making sure that all of the allocations, storage allocations are completely flexible, no matter how much data you might have. You might only have a little bit, you might have small objects. People are up to 5 terabytes and above, so working on a site now that, that are gonna have 10 terabytes or 20 terabytes. You want to make sure that original assets are automatically transcoded for easy access. You never know what type of content people are going to be able to display or play on their system. So we transcode everything that goes in so that it will display on mobile devices, on desktops, on tablets. Any device people might want to look at, you might want to allow them to see it. And then down at the bottom, making sure there are multiple download options in case people do want to collect that. Maybe they're a researcher, maybe they're working on their own exhibition. You want to empower people to use your content as you see fit. So we have multiple download options depending upon people's permission levels or what you want to allow people to take away with them. Maybe it's the digital asset, maybe it's just the metadata related to the record. So in those accessibility features, you have the ability to access and administer everything right in the web browser. It's fully responsive, so there's just one application, and that'll respond to any size browser, whether you're holding it right up and you're holding your phone like this, or you turn your phone to landscape mode. So it's just one application. You don't have to download a native mobile app or anything like that. It runs all within the web browser and natively responds to what you're looking at on the screen. We are really big on accessibility. So we've worked with the New Zealand Blind Foundation. We've done a Recollect site for them. So we target WCAG 2.0 level AA for our accessibility standards. And that really takes into account people who need to use screen readers, people who need to have high contrast ratios. Some of that comes down to design decisions and theming and branding decisions, but we're really big on providing easy access no matter how people need to get to your content. And then we make sure everything is developed using those screen readers and accessibility toolbars. So here's a little bit of a look at kind of the main search results page, interacting with the content. I think the first thing you'll see, and this is something that I encourage everyone to do, no matter what platform you're using, is make it really graphical. Yes, you can have a list result of text search results, but if you put images in there, it's just so much more appealing to anyone who's going to visit your site. It's immediately engaging and gets people to click through into the next level. And that's what you want to keep, is you want to keep people moving through your narratives. You want to keep them moving through your content and not ducking out after looking at one item. We have the ability to link and tag on any images or documents so that you can add links to people, places, ideas, themes that are happening within the content itself. And then those links go directly to knowledge pages, which are something that's a little bit unique to what we do in that kind of records or pages don't have to be related directly to a digital asset. They can become a knowledge hub for themes or for stories or for people in general. You can tag on manuscripts the same way. We find a lot of public libraries, especially a lot of government, local councils and government agencies have subdivision plans. Everyone has subdivision plans. How do we draw the information out of that and create a story and a narrative around subdivision plans? It's something everyone has. One of the ways we do it is by letting people tag into the subdivision plans and then create knowledge pages about a street, about a suburb, about a particular property. Folks looking up their property history is really popular and important, especially at a local level. So we find that people will come to your site to look up the history of their house or the history of their street, and then they'll go further into the collection and start engaging with all the rest of your content as well. So this works great for subdivision plans. And it's really great for journals. Now, one of the most important things is organizing your journals into, here's a journal, here are all of the issues. So again, you want to make it really graphical. This is NZEI. Again, they have 90 or 100 years worth of their newsletters in here. So you want to let people dive into not only explore the journals themselves, but then go in and explore the issue really graphically, page through it, be able to run a full text search and then have where that word appears in the result be highlighted for them and take them directly there. So keeping it graphical, letting people explore as if they were exploring a real item is really important to us. And then for audio and video, oral histories are something that's really popular and is gaining popularity. It's one of our favorite and most important things because that's information that's going to be lost very soon. A lot of this information that you'll find doing interviews or doing oral history projects. So again, we have a streaming player built right in. There's no need to download any of the items. We think that's really important no matter what platform people are using. And then you've got the contextual links that editors can add that take the user directly to the topics of interest to them. Those are all keyword searchable, just like a piece of text or a piece of metadata. And that'll let people dive directly into the things that matter to them rather than having to click through 45 minutes or an hour of an interview. Some of these oral history interviews on the State Library of South Australia's site can run 2 hours or more. And so this lets people search and then click directly into exactly what they're looking for. So this is something that even YouTube doesn't do at this point. You might see if you want to link directly into a point of time at YouTube, you have to put the little string on the end that says 4 minutes and 20 seconds in the URL or something like that. So this is one of people's favorite features about this. And no matter what platform you're using, we highly recommend being able to do this, to link directly into a piece of multimedia. Every piece of information or digital asset is geolocatable with full integration with the Google Maps API. We're at a local studies meeting, so being local and localizing things and geolocating them is literally one of the most important things we can do. So the locations can be assigned to any piece of content or knowledge. It doesn't have to be a digital asset. It can be a knowledge page about a suburb or a street or a property. And that location data can be imported and exported to or from any other system. And then it can draw areas, draw polygons, let you define a certain region or a certain range. That's really important to us. Here's how it looks in our interface, is you can go in and it'll automatically add markers to a map, and then you can go in and explore the actual digital content directly in the map. So we find that's really important. It's one of the main reasons that people end up coming on board to Recollect, and we would highly recommend it no matter what platform you decide to use. Now here we're getting to the fun bit. So this is something that's super important, and we find that this was the biggest gap. If we were looking at other collections management systems, archive systems, maybe modules from library catalog, online systems. What they don't let you do is create online exhibitions and experiences and narratives. So this is honestly one of the most fun parts. We do all this work to digitize material to a high standard, create all this fantastic metadata, and then you want to tell the story. So what we do is we let Recollect administrators and editors create really, really great custom exhibitions and themed collections that you can turn into a narrative. So there's a graphical user interface for creating custom landing pages and graphics. You can use it to create blog posts and then link directly into collection items held within the database. And then we do lots and lots of custom API integration for people who are creating their own interactive experiences, and I'll show a couple examples of that. So here's the Upper Hutt City Libraries, Upper Hutt in the 1960s Oral History Exhibition. I'd really recommend checking this out. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. They did I think maybe 40 or 50 interviews with people from the region on their experiences growing up in Upper Hutt in the 1960s. So they have wonderful oral history audio, streaming audio files that then are supported by transcriptions of the audio that are then keyword searchable and full text searchable, photographs that are then keyworded and linked directly into these oral histories. So it's a way of creating this compelling narrative out of audio files and images and documents. It really creates all of this contextual knowledge and tells the story in a way that downloading a WAV file of an interview doesn't necessarily tell the story. It lets you listen to it, but it doesn't create that rich experience. The State Library of South Australia has created this awesome custom landing page. They actually did this themselves. You can go in and add your own HTML and add your own, style it with your own CSS. So here they've created a custom landing page with their own custom graphics to let people dive directly into themes and topics which might interest them. They really wanted to migrate to a very modern platform. They already had a lot of this information, but they wanted to put it into a dynamic platform that let people come in and experience it and dig around and really get into the research that mattered to them. So clicking on any one of these then takes you into the database to a knowledge hub about these particular topics, which are supported with photographs and documents and oral histories and transcriptions. So it's a wonderful way to let people dive in themselves, know what they're getting into, without having to think about, what do I search now? Or, I don't know what to type into the search bar, and I kind of don't know where to start. So having a place to start is really wonderful. One of our favorite initiatives with Recollect right now is the University of Newcastle Cultural Collections, who have created a virtual reality application that's based on digitizing Indigenous artifacts. So they built Australia's largest KFC in Newcastle in about 2010, and while they were excavating to put in the foundation of the KFC, they found that it was an incredibly rich field of Indigenous artifacts. So they did an entire archaeological dig, and now they are 3D scanning all of the 5,000 objects that came out of the dig. They're all about palm size, they're all about this big, and some of them, like this one, you can clearly see where there's been a cutting edge that's been chipped away. There's an area on the other side that was clearly meant to grip it. Some of them might not necessarily be artifacts, they might just be rocks. So what they can do is put these online. We're creating a 3D viewer so that they can go in and manipulate and view all of the objects in 3D on any desktop or even on your phone. And then experts can add their information. Maybe people have found objects like this in their area. Then they're pulling all of those objects and metadata out of Recollect, and they've made a virtual reality experience where people can go in and actually do the dig themselves. So you have your shovel or your trowel or your brush, and you dig down and you find an object and pull it up, and all of the metadata is there around it. So this is all powered by having really rich digital assets in the digital asset management system, and really rich metadata, which will tell the story of that. So we're big on this. A lot of folks are using Recollect as a storage, a collections management platform for metadata and for collaborating on getting all of the information right, and then pulling it out through an API to use it in a rich multimedia experience that they build themselves. So really what powers that is full database control in the back. It's all cloud software online, so all of it can be administered through the web browser. You can totally configure all of your data templates and then connect any piece of knowledge or content to any other piece of knowledge or content. You've probably heard people talk about graph-style databases where you can literally go in and create a web of connections. So that's what Recollect will let you do. You can create those custom hierarchies and series. If you have specific structures that you want to follow, the Australian archival series system, you can create those as you like. And then it's really permissions heavy. So there are 5 standard levels of permissions that can be assigned, and then you can create custom groups. Maybe you've got these 5 people who are from a local history society, and you know they're very knowledgeable about this particular event or this particular interest in your area, and you want to give them permission to go in and add knowledge about that, but you don't want to necessarily give them permission to edit all of your records. So you can assign them permission to go in and say, hey, we know you're really interested in the railways here. Go in and please help us identifying our photographs, adding context to our railways photos. A little bit of a look at the administrator panel. You can go in and customize all of the templates. So this is what customizing your database looks like. And then really what we're about is taking all of these insights you get through people using your system internally and externally, analyzing that, and then putting those into practice. So we're completely integrated with Google Analytics. You can get those insights from all of the user behavior. You can go in and take the analytics and output them to Google Data Studio, which I'd like to show you if we have time here in a second. And then you can create custom collection reports by combining and filtering any search and filtering criteria. So again, that's all of that reporting that you'll need to do for preservation activities, for archival activities. But by analyzing all of the outputs of those, you can really put into practice streamlining your organizational processes, getting people to be more engaged with what you're putting online, and anything that you need for satisfying management or for funding applications. All of the data is right there, and you'd be very surprised at what fantastic information you can get to support your processes, to streamline your processes, to support your applications, just from what people are doing using your online platform. So here's just a quick look at analyzing audience behavior in Google Analytics, and a quick look at taking those analytics and putting them into a really nice form in Google Data Studio, which is a really free and fantastic product, where you can go in and say, where are people coming to our site from? What is the refer? How many pages deep into our site are they getting? What device are they accessing on? And how are we matching up against last year or last quarter? So getting those statistics is really important to support all of your internal processes. And I think that's all I've got for that part of the presentation. That's kind of an overview of Recollect. We're at 10:45 now. So what I might do is quickly run through some engagement strategies that we have. So if you want to queue up the next one, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions if anybody wants to ask any questions. So this is information and practices that you can take away no matter what system you're using. These are derived from our experiences with customers and directly analyzing their data with it that's coming out of Recollect. But you can use this no matter what platform you're using. So there are some online engagement strategies that we would really encourage everybody to put into practice. Number one is accommodating the audience, and you want to configure it for really easy discovery. So think about how people are going to go in and discover your material. The second is to let the data do the work. So look at that audience behavior, find out what pages they're going to, and then customize your content, your knowledge, your stories that you're putting online to match what people are doing. And then you want to act upon all of that information. So it's like a repetitive cycle. You want to keep accommodating your audience, keep analyzing the data, and then put it back into practice. The thing to keep most in mind is that you have all these different spheres of influence when you're an online digital repository. Organizational, so that's people using it directly internally inside your organization. Locally and regional, that's a lot of what we're talking about here today. There's a crossover into people using it nationally, and then people accessing globally, which I think the internet is allowing us to really target people from other areas of the world who are interested in what we're doing very, very specifically and locally. So here's kind of an overview of which institutions are accessing your material and where they might sit. So if you think about organizationally, it's your staff and it's your visitors, people who are coming directly into your building and using your online facilities there, sitting down at a terminal and accessing your collections, or they want to come in and look at your physical collections. Regionally, it's local history groups, which are pretty much our favorite groups, and social groups. They have our You Live in Newcastle When Facebook groups. They are extremely active and cross-posting to those and getting those people to come to your online presence and interact with you and then come to your physical building is really important. They're an incredible resource, and there are thousands and thousands of people on them, and they're active every day. Moving from regional to national, we've got our research institutions, universities especially, content creators. Now this is getting really important now. YouTubers, podcasters, people who are doing local history meeting or storytelling. So these content creators are exploding internationally, especially people creating podcasts and YouTube videos. So where do they get their material? And it's from everyone here. That's where they're getting their stories. So catering to those content creators, wherever they might be in the world, is really important. So you can see they cross over from regional all the way into global. And actually, if you think about it, internally, you can be content creators as well. So you want to be making videos and podcasts and blog posts about your collection items. You're probably already doing that, but other people want to use your content too. Family historians, really, really engaged group. They're extremely motivated, and they are worldwide. So I know all of you probably think about that a lot. With our larger organizations, we have to remind them, don't forget about the family historians. And then cultural institutions who will be getting visitors both regionally and nationally, and they really want people in their door. So a lot of that is motivating people who are visiting online to come and visit their location. Here are the access methods. So we've got kind of our local, regional, national, and global, accessing via desktop and in person. Here's how those break down. So organizationally, you're going to have people in person, and they're going to be sitting at terminals generally. This is changing a little bit to mobile, but when people come to your facility, they're going to be talking to you in person or accessing on a desktop for the most part. But locally and regionally, it is almost all on their phone. It's almost all on a mobile device, or they're coming in to visit you as well. When you get up to the national level, it's kind of split because you have a lot of people doing real research, so they're on a desktop, or people, kind of doing some content snacking on mobile. And then as you get global, it's a lot more people doing research, so it's people on desktops. So you really want to think about this. Is this piece of content really appealing to people on a global level, where we'll want to put a nice big digital asset that people can explore on a desktop? But is it really local or regional? We want to make sure it looks great on a mobile phone. So here are some great ways to accommodate your audience. One is making it visual. So you want to make featured projects and exhibitions directly accessible right from the landing page. Can't emphasize that enough. You want to have stuff for people to dive into directly from the first page they land on. And then you want to rotate that content really regularly so that people keep coming back, visiting you all the time, and then make sure they can get to it on mobile. You want to make sure that any content, especially stuff that's really local, is tuned for mobile devices so that you can allow fast and direct access to the topics that people really care about, depending upon what level of audience they are. This is the State Library of South Australia's Recollect site. You can see how visual it is. I'd also like to point out something really important is using compelling imagery on your site. They've done a great job. Every image in their big banner up at the top is super compelling, like it has a story to it. As soon as someone lands on the page, There's something right in front of them that has a story behind it where they want to say, what's happening here? I want to learn more about that. So drama. Honestly, you want some drama on your homepage, literally as one of the first things people see. Can't encourage that enough. And then have exhibitions they can look at, and then local stuff, geolocations, maps they can dive into. What matters to me? I know these places and I want to see something that matters directly to me. This is the Upper Hutt City Libraries page. Again, you can see there's something really dramatic on their homepage with a story. Makes you want to dive in. They have their oral histories project right at the bottom right. And then easy buttons for people to dive into any collection verticals of content. This is the University of Newcastle Cultural Collections, and these are pages about people. So these are knowledge hubs about these people. It helps so much putting a photo of the person on there. You can see that the access is 5, 10, 20 times greater when you just have a profile picture of the person rather than having it as a text result of their name. So here are ways to accommodate your audience. You want to create those easily browsable collections. You want to add metadata and keywords with your audience in mind. If you want to do Library of Congress headings, fantastic. Is that the way your audience is going to be looking for things? They can keyword search it, but is that how they're going to drill down into different levels of topics or hierarchies or relationships? Maybe it is. Maybe you want to have both and have your Library of Congress stuff be internal only, so only administrators can see it, or maybe you want to share that with people and have those be external as well. Having those subject tags and keywords that apply to everyone, be they librarians or if they're just members of the public, is really important. You want to link directly to topics of interest, as we looked at with the oral histories, so that people can get right to the content that matters to them, and then encourage content snacking so that they can come in and look for something. Again, 2.5 minutes is the average user session time, as we'll see here in just a second. So easily browsable collections, so having a nice collection for the Upper Hutt City Libraries page, dive right into those deep links into content, then how do we analyze that behavior? You can get it out in Google Analytics and use Google Data Studio, which is a free product you can attach to analyze any website that you can put your Google Analytics code in. And then you want to apply those learnings, configure your site and your collection for engagement, and then use that data, and you can use it to support your streamlining your business processes or for your funding applications. Look, we've had X thousand people come in and look at these streams of content. We want to do an outreach campaign to other regional libraries based on this. Gives you hard data to take to management or to funding bodies, and they love that. So let's look at some of these important metrics. There are 3 that are the most important if you're going to look and analyze online behavior with Google Analytics. Number 1 is sessions, and that's your user activity until 30 minutes of inactivity. That's how popular is your content, how big is your audience, how many people are viewing you a day, are viewing one piece of content a day. Number 2 is the time on the page. Are people reading the entire page? Are they just coming in and looking at the photo? Are they listening to the entire audio file? Or are they just coming in and listening to a couple minutes of it? And then the most important one to keep an eye on is bounce rate. And bounce rate is people leaving your site from the same page they came in on. So that means they came in and looked at one thing and then they left. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We find that sites that are heavily Facebook driven, we have the New Zealand West Coast History site is one of the most popular Recollect sites. They have about 1,500 unique users per day. Very heavily Facebook driven, but their bounce rate is very high. It's around 70%, which means people see a post on Facebook, click the link, come into Recollect and look at one item and then leave the site. But thousands of people per day do that. So you want to make sure you're tailoring your content to the platform people are coming in from. And it also tells you how compelling your content is. You want to create those stories. So you really want to encourage a low bounce rate if you can, which means people clicked into your site and then followed your narrative several pages deep. And we find the average page depth is about 4 or 5. This is what a Google Analytics report looks like. You can go in and take your different kind of arrays of data and find out where people are coming from, how long they stayed, what content they're looking at. If they come from a social platform, so they were on Facebook and clicked in, you can get all types of information about them, whether they, what age group they are, what their other interests are. This also works if they are logged into a Google account and Google is saving the searches that they're working on. You have to enable that and then make people aware that that's happening. But if they come from a social platform, it's amazing how you can tailor your content. Here we show user age. So how old were the people who were coming in and looking at these particular streams of content? You want to encourage people of all different age groups to come in and look at the content online and then drive them into your physical location, if you like. Here's setting up a report in Google Data Studio. Again, Google Data Studio is completely free. You can use it to report on any site where you have a Google Analytics code attached. It's really easy and graphical to set up. We encourage everyone to do this no matter what platform you're using. And here's just a quick report that I put together using the New Zealand West Coast History site. So on the left, you see our pie chart of referrers. The blue is Facebook. You can see how many of their users come from Facebook, literally 70%. And then down below that, you can see who's coming from mobile. And literally, they're to the point where over half of the users are on a mobile device. So they're in the Facebook app, and they're clicking on a piece of content, and they're coming into the site, into Recollect, on their phone. So you really want to tailor your digital content to look great on a phone, being held in portrait orientation like that. And you also want to make sure that your descriptions are brief enough that you make the most of the 2 minutes they're going to spend with you. On the right is average page depth, so you can see it runs from 1 through to 8. Let's see, we've got 6 on the end. So this is the number of pages people are clicking through. So what you want to do is tailor your content so you've got a story that you want people to click through, kind of 4 pages to get through. That's what you want to look at, is the page depth. How deep are people going into our collection? And then on the bottom right, this is really important for reporting back to your organization. How are we doing versus last year or last month or last week? This is really awesome motivational material. It can also help you get more resources by saying, look, our online users grew by 20%, 50%, 100% last month. We need to get a little more resource here. Let's look again at where's that traffic coming from. Again, you can see the vast majority of your traffic is coming from Facebook, so you need to go where your people are. But this is from West Coast, which is a very Facebook-driven site. Usually it gets a little bit down to 50% Facebook, 50% Google. But it also lets you see, if you look at the red piece of the pie, those are organic Google searches. Those are people searching for things in your content and then coming to you directly from Google. So you want to think about what words Google is using to find you. Think about your search engine optimization, what your search results look like when people type something into the Google search box. My favorite is mapping audience by location. So this is going down to the suburb level. It's really fantastic. Again, remember, this is the West Coast History site. We can see they have a large viewership from Christchurch because the big population closest to them. And then you can drill down into individually, actually, I think I'm going to might have clicked back past one. You can go down to the suburb level, so we can even click through to seeing what suburb people are from. If you look over into Australia, you can even see migration patterns. So you can see how many Kiwis migrate up here to Queensland who are accessing their material. But it's a really incredible way to say, hey, these are where people are coming from to access our material. We want to make sure we tailor our content to them. And you'd be absolutely surprised and amazed where people are coming from to look at your material. And then the most important thing is obviously seeing what your most popular material is. So go in and look at your top pages, see how many people are looking at it, how much time they're spending on there, and what the bounce rate is. Did someone come in and just look at this one piece of material, or did it lead them into your story or narrative? So those are all 3 really important metrics to look at. Number of sessions, time on page, and bounce rate. I would say those are the 3 most important. That's right. Some people can just let it sit there and they don't necessarily know what to do. Seeing how long people spend on your search results page is also really interesting. So again, we'll look here at the New Zealand History site, looking at those, how long they're spending. Are they bouncing out from your search results? Maybe you're not leading them into your content well enough and you need better titles or you need more compelling profile photos. And then the other thing is to apply learnings and make it real. So what Wellington City Libraries have started doing is promoting their Recollect site with physical materials, which is fantastic. So they've been mailing out postcards, which you can see at the bottom, which have historic photos taken from their Recollect site, letting people use them. So they've been sending these to letterboxes and then letting people take them away from the library branches as well. And then they've been adding posters at the same time. So use these real-world promotional campaigns and give people usable content, postcards, things for their wall. That bridges the gap between online digital world, physical world for public libraries, institutions. It's really important to make that connection between online and kind of ephemeral in the air, and then physical, real, in the building, and where your audience is. Make sure you go where they are, social media platforms, as we can see all that traffic from Facebook, and then also your bricks and mortar locations. So you want to make it accessible from your building as well. And then get them when they're available. So when and where are your users online? Interestingly, they've found with the Wellington City Libraries, what they've done is put the posters in the public restrooms at some points. It's when people are online, which is interesting. So they're really, it's true. So they're really thinking about when people are online, where they're accessing from, and where their device, what device they're using when they access from different places. So make sure you do your digital engagement, but your physical engagement as well. And that is my last slide, but I've got a few more resources. These are really, really fascinating if you want to dig in a little more. Best practices for Google Analytics and digital libraries, web analytics strategies for information professionals, and enhancing the library website using Google Analytics, which is a little bit older, but still really great information in those. So again, analyze your users, internal and external, and then apply those learnings to all of your practices at the same time. So that's it. All right. Thanks very much for having a listen. Really appreciate it.